So here's a question for contemplation for the philosophically minded. If the perception is, to a large degree, the lens through which humans perceive the world, reality, and, well, pretty much every other thing, it makes sense when you think about it, and most people don't, that we would do what we could, like we would strengthen our bodies to prevent ourselves from being beaten up in whatever way that would apply, to prevent ourselves from being, well, deceived in the world of deception that we are in. The deceivers will try to manipulate your perception of anything and everything that they possibly can to effectively gain control over you for the purposes of manipulation, extraction, etc., etc., etc. So, if we're born ignorant, we're born blank, we have to learn everything largely from the outside in until we get to a certain point of life, and then we start learning from the inside out. On some levels, it applies. And some of the learning relevant to the inside out is learning to listen to yourself. Think of it this way. How many times has your inner self, your gut, let's say it's your gut, your intuition, not your heart and your feeling. Your gut told you, do this, and you didn't do it. And after it was done and everything was over, you're like, damn, I should have did that, and I didn't, I should have listened to myself. That's that inner voice, that inner guide, that inner beacon, that inner thing that was telling you you should have done something and you chose not to do it with your logical mind for whatever reason. And we all do it. Or the time where that same thing within you said, do something, and you didn't do it. Something came up. Did I just mix that up? Anyway, I'm trying to illustrate a point in which you did something where your gut told you not to, and a point in which you didn't do something where your gut told you to do something and you chose not to do it. This is the inner guide. Now, how many times will we do that to ourselves in life and still never come to trust that inner voice, if you will? And it's not really a voice. That inner thing that told you to or not to, for instance, do a certain thing. In the world that we live in, since everything external to us really seems to seek to deceive deceive us. Think about it. From the spiritual and religious context about, the evil that controls the world, blah, blah, blah. The devil will seek to deceive you at any point in which you can, yada, yada, yada. Basically, all weaknesses within your being become fair game in this reality because they're effectively access points to the inner you, if you will, where you can be most easily controlled and manipulated in some way. So in order to have that not be the case, in order to prevent that, we have to have the ability to accurately perceive our objective reality for what it is. Some of that comes from knowledge, knowing, being able to see, doing the work yourself to see what you can for what it is with those cognitive, mental, logic, reason abilities. But then there comes a point in time where the human is presented with illusions and deceptions. So how does the human develop or hone their ability to perceive accurately, to see and to perceive beyond the illusions of what this world is being presented? So we come back to that time in which your gut told you to do something and you didn't, or to not do something and you did. This is one of those mechanisms by which we more accurately interpret the world. And to the degree that we can develop a trust for the wisdom, if you will, of that inner self, will determine how much we'll listen to it and, quote unquote, be guided by it. Think about it. Have you ever, there's just so many scenarios where something within yourself, and then let's take another scenario where your heart told you to do something and you chose not to do it because your brain didn't let you, or your heart told you to do something. Sometimes you do something where your heart knots up on you and is probably telling you you shouldn't do it, but for whatever reason you got fooled into, confused into, deceived into, or just tricked or whatever. And if you would have listened to that tension that developed in your heart, as an example, just making up example, you wouldn't have experienced what probably turns out to be a negative thing. Or a time where your heart fluttered in a way and you didn't respond or react to it, you didn't do anything, and you don't know what you might have missed out on. That kind of stuff. We don't always have frames of reference for that, but I think you can see what I mean. Your gut is your inner intuition. And in a world full of deception, you're going to have to rely on that to live and exist and to operate in a world full of deception. Your heart and that feeling aspect of you, whether it's a fluttering or a tension or any point in between where you're getting something from your heart, how many frames of reference do all of us have for experiences where we did not listen to ourselves? Think about that. All of those experiences after the fact, in hindsight, when we're like, damn, my gut was telling me and I should have, or damn, my gut was telling me and I didn't do it, and whatever it is, how many of those do each of us have where we haven't developed a level of trust within ourselves to listen to this inner guidance, this inner voice, this inner nudging? How many times have you not listened or trusted what you already know because you've experienced it once or twice maybe? Yet, even though you already know it, somehow, some way, some sweet talking person lies to you, sweet nothings you, love bombs you, or whatever, And somehow you fall prey to something that's like, damn, I already knew that. How did I do that again? Even though I already knew, because that happened once or twice before, maybe in different ways, but I have inner knowing relevant to this and I didn't listen to it. So think about what I'm trying to explain to you. You're in a world full of deception where humans and spirits and blah, blah, everything in between seeks to deceive you. Therefore, you have to discern correctly. You have to perceive accurately. And to a certain degree, you'll be able to do that with the knowledge and wisdom that you've obtained through life. What you've worked to learn and information you've worked to gather, disseminate, and come to know because you've worked for it. And that will give you the eyes to see to a certain degree in a lot of respects, and it will serve you well. But people will deceive you, your government will deceive you, the church will deceive you, blah, 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 blah. This quote unquote satanic Luciferian world, they will seek to deceive those of us that are not them, if you catch my meaning. So when you think about it, the ease in which the human can be deceived depends upon how well our perception and our discernment is working. Think about that. And where we're not listening to our inner gut, our inner feeling, or our inner knowing, and a combination of all of them, will, to a large degree, be the test of how we perceive deception that we're faced with, presented with in this world. On some levels, you could say, or refer to it as being true to yourself, and developing the ability to listen to yourself, developing a trust with yourself, where you know something's not right. Something's trying to deceive you, misguide you, mislead you, etc., etc., etc. And with all your knowledge and wisdom, you're like still struggling. You're just like, oh fuck, I'm not sure. This could be a few. At that point, you've got to resort to, what does your gut tell you? What does your heart tell you? And then go with that more than what your brain is telling you. That can be challenging to fucking do. When you think about the reality that we live in, you got to ask yourself, how do you develop or hone your abilities of perception and discernment in a world that presents to us illusions, deceptions, lies, blah, 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 all the garbage that this world presents to us in the myriad of ways that it does, from the evil people that just inhabit the world and will cross your life path, to the evil people that run the world, the evil people that present it all to you on the media, etc., etc., etc. Deception, lies, trickery, blah, 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 blah. So, firstly, you have to educate yourself, and always continue to educate yourself, because, well, you're a species that's born ignorant, you're a human that's born ignorant and blank, therefore you have to learn. To the degree that you consume information that gives you knowledge, that broadens your awareness, that broadens your consciousness, that will determine a lot about how much you are able to see in this reality and understand and comprehend. But, to the degree that you are limited by that, and you can't see all things, you can't know all things, you can't blah, 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 well, you have to resort to trusting. This is work, humans, developing this process, this trust within ourselves. You have to develop the ability to hear from, read, discern, listen to your inner being, your gut, your intuition. That's what that is. Your heart, your feeling. And that's what that is. Utilizing your mind in whatever way that is going to serve you, but knowing that, think about it, your mind can be tricked, your mind can be deceived. Through the vehicle of mind, you take information that's false or wrong, and now you have beliefs that are wrong, and all that kind of crap. So in a world that seeks to do all that to us, how can we find or know truth when everything seeks to deceive us? It's that inner voice, that inner feeling in your heart, that inner intuitive sensing that you get in your gut. Without being aware that these are natural mechanisms for us to employ, to interpret the world we live in and to figure out how to navigate it. The place from which we would hear from or interpret communications in some way from a spirit that might be trying to guide us, a higher self that might be trying to talk to us, a quote unquote God that may be trying to speak to you. These things may come from these inner places. If the spark of divinity is within us and there is this truly divine thing out there, how might it communicate with us? Even if it's capable of using the roar of a lion within us to communicate with us, apparently it's not doing that very much. Therefore, it might be through the language of our hearts or our guts. Maybe it's not the divine that's doing that. Maybe it's our higher self, and that communicates to us through the language of our gut and our intuition. Or, I'm just putting it out there. If we don't do this exploration and learn this stuff about ourselves so that we have more antennae to accurately perceive and more avenues of input of information from which to accurately perceive, ergo, or i.e. what's inside of us, that inner feeling, that gut knowing, that heart feeling, that may very well be our own inner being communicating with us, or spiritual forces that may be on the good side trying to communicate with us through our own hearts, through our own guts and that intuition, things of that nature. I'm just philosophizing out loud, wondering, and some of this is actually very true. And the philosophizing and wondering part is whether or not spirit kind of does or is communicating with us through these in some subtle way, or if it is more just quote unquote higher self or something like that, which would be a spirit, but a force, of course, but in a different kind of way. Either way, whether it's a third party or it's ourselves, it's our higher self, it's a spirit force that is probably trying to find a way or using this as a way to communicate with us in some way, because it's clearly not going to come and talk to you with an animated voice. You know, that kind of thing. I just wonder if there's a lot of guidance out there coming to us or for us from quote unquote benevolent energies or entities, spirit guides, guardians, ancestors, or whatever. And since, like it or lump it, they communicate with us through that quote unquote subtle voice, or those subtle things that they tell you you've got to kind of get quiet for, to hear, to interpret, to sense. I wonder how much of that is through the language of the heart. Interesting. Versus our own selves, higher self, soul self, whatever. But in either context, it's still a spiritual thing, force, consciousness, trying to communicate to us in ways that we may not be interpreting, may not be trusting. And when you think of it from that perspective, if in fact that is true, and we're not trusting our gut when it says, don't do it, buddy, don't do it, and we do it anyway, well, there we go. We're somehow trained or conditioned to not listen to that inner thing. That, I hate to say it again, broken record style, but how many times have we done something, looked back, and not listened to that subtle inner voice, whether it came from the heart, whether it came from the gut? Or maybe it was somehow your subconscious speaking in symbols through your conscious mind, and you were hearing something say, don't do it, you goddamn fool. But you did it anyway. It's an illustration of not listening to the inner thing. And I think the world has conditioned us for this shit. Seek your answers from outside of you. Seek your guidance from outside of you. Seek all of that stuff external to you. And then it creates an environment that's more conducive to us being deceived and betrayed because of manipulation that we didn't see. I mean, there's all kinds of implications to it. So coming back full circle in closing, perception and discernment, very much. But perception is a really, really, really big deal. And it really would behoove everyone to begin to ask themselves what it is that they do, how it is they have, in a world full of deception, developed their own responsibility to take action for honing, developing, strengthening, if you will, their abilities to perceive and to see beyond the illusions and the lies and the deceptions that this world presents you. That's some legit shit, because if you don't do that in this world, look at what is happening and look at what they seek to do. Control, manipulate, lie, extract, get up and work, pay your bills, pay your taxes, give us your tax money, all this stuff. Just do what we say. Programming the little minds of the people, and this is all just kind of ridiculous. So in the ridiculousness that it is, you have to be able to perceive objective reality for what it is to be able to make decisions that are appropriate. You have to be able to discern. Well, how do you do all that? Discernment. Perception, being accurate. On top of, perception comes with the thing where you're feeding your mind knowledge that gives you awareness, that grows consciousness, develops you the eyes to see layer by layer by layer as you pierce through the layers and evolve through that. There's still the element of you're never always right with what you can perceive with your eyes and all the knowledge you have and all that shit. What it is that's deceiving the shit out of the human species is quite knowledgeable and has quite the ability. So we have to, at some point, recognize that there's something internal to us that we need to start considering listening to in order to be not deceived as easily, if you will, in the world of deception that whatever created us birthed us and put us into, to play its little game of good versus evil that it created and decided to, again, put us into, where children are raped and murdered and killed and sacrificed to demon gods. Yeah, I just always have to throw that in there a lot of times, because it's just sickening to me that people believe that there's some loving force out there that made us like this, made us manipulatable like this, made us with all these unseen things within us that are the direct access points into the manipulation of the whole species, didn't imbue us with any knowledge about these aspects of ourselves, to the point where the world is basically wholly controlled and manipulated largely by these aspects of us that people don't know. Don't realize, and we don't make it a point as we raise our children to imbue into them foundations of understanding about all the unseen aspects, the intangible aspects of us as beings that are as important as the physical aspects of lungs, heart, brain, eyes, body, etc., etc., etc. If, whether you like it or not, that is the reality of the world that we've been put into. If the world that we were put into was controlled by the Prince of Darkness, if you will, before we even got here, if it knows more about us than we do, about ourselves, then it has advantage Team Darkside for the absolute manipulation of the very beings that we are, because it understands how we were built and engineered. You see what I'm saying? So, you're in a world full of deception, where what put you here willfully put you here to be deceived by the evil one in the battle between them two, the good versus the evil, the God versus the devil, the light versus the dark. So we just have to ride the carnival show, blah, 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 blah. And if you want to make it out of here with any degree of sanity, or interpret this place with any degree of accuracy, you have to tune your perception muscles. You have to tune your discernment muscles. And this goes for all of us. This goes for all of us. And if you're not taking the steps to do that, well, you're more likely to be deceived and manipulated and ultimately controlled in this world. And strangely, the people that this would actually benefit the most are the people who don't look for content like mine. And most of the people that listen to this are probably like, yep, dude's right. Because your perception, your discernment is probably much different than the vast majority of people. If you got the shot and you follow my content, you probably shouldn't, because you're just at a vastly different level of consciousness and awareness than me and those that, well, I would expect are following my content, but I digress. Anyway, just some things to contemplate, food for thought, relevant to perception, discernment, trusting your inner self, the places from within you, these things that we don't listen to come from your gut, your intuition, your heart, your feeling, and that kind of stuff. Think about it. And if you can see time after time after time after time after time after time in your life, over the course of your life, where that inner being was talking to you, that inner you, that inner gut, that inner heart, whatever, and you didn't listen, you went off pursuing what you thought you wanted, and you didn't listen to yourself, and look at what you ended up getting in those scenarios. How many of those do we have to rack up before we actually start realizing, whoa, well, maybe I should, in this world of deception and deceivers and narcissists and psychopaths and, all kinds of other very unsavory things that seek to extract from and manipulate people in this world. Yeah, you got to develop your discernment muscle, your deception muscle, or your discernment muscle, your perception muscle, and you've got to learn to listen to that inner thing. You've got to hear it. Another perfect case in point, I know I said I'll leave you with this one, is everybody knows that a lot of guys think with their dick. And I'm sure it happens in the inverse for women in plenty of scenarios, but everybody knows the guys think with their dicks. They've got these balls, just testosterone. I got to do my thing, right? Got to get my thing off. Well, so the guy in this situation, there's this really unsavory, unpleasant person that is willing to give him all kinds of sex, and he's like, the typical dumb male mind. His gut is telling him, don't do it. His gut, or something inside of him, his heart, is like, don't do it. But he's thinking with his dick. He's consumed by his mind being hypersexualized, and it all converges together. And he goes and does the thing. Maybe he does the thing a lot. Maybe he does it a lot over time and she gets her hooks in. But ultimately, it turns out to be really, 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 really bad. And he has that one fleeting moment while he's writhing in fucking pain in whatever way that manifests. Or sitting in a jail cell or whatever it might be that unfolds for the man that didn't listen to his inner voice and said, don't fucking do it. And he's like, has that aha moment. He's like, damn, I should have listened to my gut when it was telling me. But damn it, I was thinking with my dick. And my eyes were feasting on those boobs and that luscious curves. And, well, we just had to get that thing going on now, didn't we? Didn't listen to our inner self and paid a dear, dear price. How many times has that unfolded for men and women? Flip it if you're a woman. How many times has that shit unfolded and you didn't listen to that inner voice, that inner thing, your gut telling you, tensing up on you before you did something, your heart tensing up on you, or not doing something you should have done where it could have been great, where your gut was giving you all kinds of butterflies and your heart was too. You could get them in both places. Kind of weird. And then chose not to because of fear in the mind or something like that. Another scenario where not listening to that inner self, that inner being, that inner guidance, is detrimental to us in preventing us from getting something that could be fucking wonderful and awesome and, lead to some measurable amount of like a little bit of a bliss experience for you in your life, the journey of your life. If your heart's doing something and your gut's doing something, it's telling you, oh, okay. But you're mentally locked in fear because of some shit you're telling yourself and you never actually do what your gut and your heart are telling you to do. Well, think about it. How many people, I don't think everybody understands or can follow the train long enough to know when that shit unfolds in their life, but I'm sure it does. And there would be illustrations of where this works to our detriment or our benefit. Think about it. For the good shit and the bad shit. If we don't listen to ourselves and not go and pursue, for instance, someone that the heart or the gut was telling us we should, but something in the mind prevented us from doing it. Or we do something because our mind told us one thing that we wanted to be true, but our gut said no. Our heart said no too. And maybe it was like not really in it, but our mind was, so we pursued it and come to find out it wasn't what we thought it was. We got a shit sandwich out of it. And, our gut or our heart told us not to, and we did it anyway. Think about it. Now, step back from everything I said and realize you're in a world of deception. How do you accurately perceive and discern in this world? And it all can't come from all that you know. It all can't come from your knowledge and wisdom and having the eyes to see everything, because nobody sees everything in this reality, especially when the things that you may be looking for are being set up in the unseen realms that you have no perception that it's even going on. Therefore, when those things that are being set up in the unseen realms to manifest in your reality, to deceive you, to extract from you, to trip you up, to do whatever, to accurately perceive it, to accurately discern it for what it is, you're going to have to also learn to listen to that inner voice, that inner gut, that inner heart, that inner feeling, that inner being. Again, it could be spirit. It could be your higher self. It could be God himself. It could be an angel. It could be any of that stuff. And since these are avenues in, it could be a demon. You got to discern. How does it feel? Anyway, I think point's been made. Just food for thought. Philosophizing through some of the places and spaces my mind goes through, from places of resentment of God, quote unquote God, for putting us into this reality to experience this. I still get to the point in that resentment of saying, well, how can you accurately navigate this rancid ass fucking deceiving realm? Well, there is things within us that we could use, but many of us do not. The world seeks to extract or distract us and our focus external. So with all of the efforts that the world has put into distracting our focus and attracting it externally, more of this inner stuff that we're not thinking about, looking at, using, getting to know, etc., etc., etc. Don't get me wrong, it's not like some people don't have a good intuition and they listen to themselves, but this is not most people. This is why and how most people are deceived. This is why and how most people are manipulated. This is why and how most people are taken advantage of. I mean, let's just say granny. A lot of people get taken advantage of. Somebody comes, some shyster or shyster-et comes to try to manipulate some old granny woman with lots of money, but, she's old, from an era where people didn't think the way they do today, so she's not used to this shit, so she would never suspect it. And some shyster comes to manipulate granny, and her gut tells her, no, I don't know, but They deceive her because they use sweet words, and they're attractive people, you know, well-dressed, well-groomed, smell good and stuff, and speak well. So Granny's like, well, they look good enough, they seem good enough, blah, 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 and didn't listen to her gut. What are the odds that Granny still struggling with learning to trust her inner voice? Because in that scenario, the whole time, something in Granny's gut was like, I don't know about these two young whippersnappers, I don't know. And then, you know, I don't know. When you start thinking this stuff through, it's like, wow, there's scenarios and examples all over the fucking place of where we don't listen to that inner being, that inner gut, that inner voice, that is really inner guidance. And whether it's the divine, whether it's your own spirit, whether it's your higher self, whether it's an angel trying to communicate with you, whatever it fucking is, spirit realm stuff, it's a vehicle or a mechanism by which we should be more attuned to, develop a trust for and with, even, it could be said, a relationship of sorts with, to be able to navigate this fucking world without being consumed or devoured by it. Anyway, food for thought. Take it easy, people.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.